Let's go through a case example of a really interesting story and someone I'm super proud of. So this person's absolutely awesome. She was going through a couple years of dizziness after a day-long period of painting with her neck in a really funky position looking overhead. And since then, she had been dealing with tons of dizziness, unable to really figure out what to do because any type of movement or exercise was making it a ton worse. What we had to do was restore the way her neck functioned and be really gentle while we stretched the right things, strengthened the right things, mobilized the right things, and returned her neck to feeling good. And we integrated her balance systems to make sure she wasn't too dependent on her vision, for example. After doing all that, she's been able to return to working out at her house, doing housework, yard work, everything she wants to do. Still some room to grow towards her goals, but I'm super happy. She's worked super hard, had faith in the process, and shows you that even if you've been dealing with this for a long time, you can really make incredible progress once you start to get a couple things going the right way. Go through this case example together. I'm really excited about this one. So let's call this person AB. She had been dealing with chronic neck pain and headaches almost every day for about 2 years, and she had tried a lot of things. She's been to chiropractors, acupuncturists, physical therapists, medical doctors, had the imaging, had the test. Everything is normal, or someone thinks it can help, but it can't. Needless to say, she was really frustrated and it was weighing on her a lot mentally, which makes sense. It had been 2 years and it was really affecting the quality of her life. Couldn't really work out, was struggling to make it through the workday without pain. That's gonna affect everybody's mental health. What did we do to fix it? Really worked on restoring the way her neck was holding itself and moving, the way it functioned. She responded well to some repetitive motion, so there was a little more complex stuff that we worked on. We really focused too on some breathwork activities and some ways to reduce stress throughout the day to help kind of tamp down that sympathetic drive that can happen when we're in pain for a while. I really want to stress that nothing we did was like crazy magic secret stuff. It's doable for everybody. Time to dive in and go through a patient case example. This review is from a patient we'll call Amanda. When I met her, she had been dealing with headaches, neck pain, and dizziness for the past couple of months that had really been messing with her quality of life. She had had all the medical tests, been to chiropractic, which actually seemed to make it worse, and she was getting really frustrated. This past weekend, she just went to a 3-day music festival and felt great. So how did we get there? On her first evaluation, it became pretty clear that she was over chin tucking when she was thinking about trying to sit in a good posture. She knew she had neck pain, dizziness, headaches with over slumping, but the way she was correcting it was a little bit abnormal. It was causing a ton of tension and irritation in her suboccipital area. Really, once we fixed this, the tension and headaches started to really come down. When we integrated her balance systems and got her back to doing things in the gym, feeling confident going out and hanging out with friends, doing more social situations as well. And it worked, right? You can see here she was able to get back to doing the things she loves. We're still working on getting stronger. We've got a lot of ways where we can make progress, but she's able to do some pretty amazing stuff in a relatively short amount of time. Let's go through this patient case. Dealing with neck pain, being dizzy, having headaches, it can be really scary, especially when you're hearing, hey, you may need surgery. This review is from a patient we'll call DG. And as you can see, he was told he was gonna need surgery as kind of a last resort to some pain that he had had for decades. It had become really frustrating and scary because he had tried physical therapy, tried this, tried that, tried chiropractic, and hadn't really been able to get any meaningful results. Just the other week, he sent me a picture of him fly fishing and also one of him kayaking as kind of a celebration because it was the first time in probably a decade plus he said that he could do those kind of things. Really worked on fixing the parts and pieces that were putting too much pressure on certain elements of his neck. That involves stretching what's tight, strengthening what's weak, and mobilizing what's stiff, and then working on more complex compound movement patterns that allowed him to get back to the things that he loves doing. Super good to see this review, see those pictures, makes me really, really happy. Let's go through a Google review and a case study of a patient of mine dealing with neck pain, cervicogenic dizziness, a lot of visual dependence as well. She'd been having mild, low-grade neck pain for a long time. She could tell her floating dizziness got worse when it was irritated with sitting, lifting. She was also having a lot of dizziness and symptoms with visual environments such as driving, going to busy grocery stores, or even being stressed at work and trying to kind of focus on the computer screen. It was really impacting her day-to-day life, and she has a young son who she wanted to be able to do stuff with, wanted to be able to run around, take care of him, have fun. So what we needed to do was fix the primary causes of dizziness, which were cervicogenic dizziness, maybe a little mild hypofunction, and then work on the visual dependence and sensory integration piece. Sounds confusing, but like she said, that's why we meet every week, go over the stuff that's confusing, and make sure you have that step-by-step plan to get results like this. And it's crazy. It can feel like a long time, but I think we're like 9 weeks into working together. After dealing with this for a few years, that's pretty dang good. Stoked to go through this Google review and case study to talk about what we did to get this person who we'll call LH back to feeling good. So when I met her, she's a very active lady, had 2 kids, worked on a farm, wanted to be able to be active, do stuff with her husband, with their kids, and also around the house and farm, but she was struggling to get pretty much any of that done without having severe dizziness, and the neck pain wasn't severe, but she could tell it was spiking alongside the dizziness. What we had to do was really slow everything down. She was a go, go, go kind of person, which is awesome. But when you're moving too much and you're not controlling your neck, that's gonna flare your cervicogenic dizziness and make you even more dependent on your vision, which makes driving and all that stuff even harder, which she was experiencing. It can be a vicious cycle. You gotta slow things back down, take care of the cervicogenic dizziness, make sure you can do some grounding and get better at controlling your symptoms when they do flare up a little bit. Then you can progress into kind of controlling and desensitizing yourself to the visual stimulus. Good news is she's back to living life. She's doing all the basics. We're still pushing, trying to get her stronger, back to working out. If you've been dealing with neck pain, headaches, and dizziness for years, this case study is for you. So stick around and we'll go through how we got results for someone who's dealing with something very similar. So when I met my patient AR, she had been dealing with headaches, neck pain, dizziness for about 5 years. Started after getting off a cruise. She'd been trying to figure out, hey, what do I do? Getting tons of different answers and not getting any results. Obviously, she was frustrated. It was keeping her from being able to make it through the workday without feeling dizzy, being able to travel, being able to work out, do the things that were fun. She had to go into a big city at times for her job, which made her really dizzy, so that was difficult. So what we needed to do was break down, okay, what's causing the neck pain and cervicogenic headaches? It was mainly that her neck was moving in a movement pattern I call extension rotation syndrome. Once we fixed that, like she says here, within a few weeks, she started realizing, hey, my head is feeling better, having less pain, having less headache. Then we really had to tackle the cervicogenic dizziness and visual dependence. There's a lot that goes into that. Once that happened, she was able to fly across the country for a work trip. She was able to get married, enjoy her wedding, make it through the workday without being bothered by these symptoms, get back to commuting if needed, doing busy visual stuff and not being too dizzy. Super happy for her. She trusted the process, put in the work, and got really, really awesome results. So if you've been dizzy for a long time, there's still hope. You just gotta figure out exactly what's going on and do the right things to fix it. It's good to end the week on a positive note. Let's go through this case study. So if you're dealing with dizziness, neck pain, this one's for you. This is a great example of why it's so important to get help quickly, because as we'll talk about, this patient was dealing with some pretty debilitating dizziness and neck pain, but got a ton of relief in 12 weeks, which is a pretty short amount of time. So thankfully, when she came to me, she had not really let this linger for multiple years or multiple months even, and we were able to start making progress right away. She was dealing with neck pain, dizziness, some head pain. It was really bothering her with basically everything. And the biggest thing first is we got to make the day-to-day doable. So we got to figure out the work setup, the sleeping setup, how she can take care of herself, how she can take care of her family. Once we kind of worked through that and symptoms were really low, we had to get her back to working out. That's important for her and honestly important for everybody. And it's super helpful for keeping the neck pain and dizziness away in the long term. I think the big part for her and a lot of people was that I was there to kind of put together the step-by-step plan. She was super motivated and diligent to do all this stuff. It makes me happy to see she felt like I was there for her and understood what was going on. That's a big piece of what I try to do. If you're going through this, I get it. I know how scary it is. Hang in there. You can get better. Dealing with dizziness, neck pain, migraines, trying to get back to work, working out, traveling internationally, going on vacation, this case study's for you. So this patient who I'll call RN was dealing with all those things. It had been going on for about 6 months and she had tried a ton of stuff, but wasn't really getting any results. She had been working treating it as a vestibular migraine, which had helped a little bit, but there was some underlying stuff regarding her neck and some PPPD or visual dependence that had really gone untreated. What we had to do is kind of slow things way down. We treated in a step-by-step fashion. So first, what you want to do is fix the neck pain and neck-related dizziness and migraines, headache stuff. Once that happens and the baseline symptoms are a lot lower, especially around home or at work, we were able to focus on, hey, let's get you back to all the things that involve being super busy. So you get the neck related stuff fixed, then you can work on the visual dependence. And the last piece is basically building up her endurance, getting back to working out, getting used to being out longer. She was actually able to travel to Barcelona. It just takes a plan and it takes breaking it down in a step-by-step fashion. That's what I've seen work best with hundreds of people dealing with similar things. If you're dealing with neck pain, headaches, and dizziness with moving or rolling or trying to lay flat, this case study is for you. It's a really interesting one. So my patient SV had tried everything. She had gone through the full gamut, as she says in the review. When we met and looked at everything, her neck was definitely causing pain and some headaches and also a little dizziness, but there was something else going on too that was a little unique. So instead of being super visually dependent and weirded out by lights and stuff, what I really saw in her was a movement sensitivity. And typically what that looks like is your body feels dizzy with doing certain movements, even if you've had all the vestibular tests and they're all normal. And that gets back to vestibular fitness, right? If you haven't been moving or rolling side to side and then you go back and try it, your body's gonna be like, nope, do not love that, even if nothing's quote wrong. So what we had to do is a little different than with a lot of people I work with, but thankfully the results were really quite good. I owe her a ton of gratitude for putting in the work and trusting the process. And it made me happy to read this review. It's small text, but in the end she talks about, hey, feeling like, yep, there's still hope in life. You can get beyond this and get back to doing stuff. She's working out 5 days a week, back in the office. Makes me super happy to see. I'll miss talking to her, but that's the way this goes. When it goes well, you don't see people anymore. This guy was dealing with headaches for years and had tried a ton of things without results. We were able to get him better in about 6 weeks, which is pretty awesome. So let's go through what we did. So yeah, this went really well. It's hard for it to go any better than this. It's not always this quick and easy. But in this situation, he had just never really gotten the right answers. He's having pretty severe headaches almost every day, especially at work with bending over and looking at the computer. And when we looked at his neck, what I found was excessive upper cervical extension, basically meaning he was here a lot, and some associated changes with his body, some tightness in specific places, some stiffness some places, some weakness. And what we did was work on how his body was moving and holding itself, took a lot of pressure off the upper cervical area and prevented the cervicogenic headaches from radiating into his face from that upper cervical region. Super awesome to see him get results. He crushed it. He was very healthy and active coming in, made my job a ton easier. Always cool when it works out really well. Everybody's different and each case is unique, but this one was really interesting. My patient JR was dealing with cervicogenic dizziness, visual dependence. She was also deaf and relied on signing to communicate. Typically, when you're dealing with cervicogenic dizziness and visual dependence, you want to not start by moving your head a ton. But she ended up needing to move her head a ton to read lips, which she explained. And also in the process of teaching sign language in school to kids, she described the process as very active, like you're using and moving your head a lot to get across what you mean. So we had to figure out a way to treat this without flaring her up, which was a little bit more challenging. Really what you want to do is create a reliable movement pattern for your neck and a sense of stability and neutral so that even if you're moving your head, you know how to get back to your start position. That's the difference between moving kind of like this, looking around, and controlling it. It made us be a little more creative, but it was a super fun process and awesome to see her get better. Now she's crushing it, back to flying, working out, getting in the gym. Awesome to see.